I was steaming when I watched this film, and if any, I mean, the fact, I mean, I didn't go and see like Schindler's List drunk, or Dead Poet Society. I kind of think of any recent films that kind of that kind of house theme. But I went to see Rambo 5 with a few drinks in me, thinking this is the kind of film you want to get quite sloshed for because it'll be a good laugh, and the alcohol couldn't even save it.
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel need for speed.
Roads? No, we're going, we don't need roads. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Batman.
I am the father.
Now, it's been a while since we've last spoken, so I'm very curious to hear what you've been up to. Obviously, we haven't been able to do much because we're still in a pandemic. I don't know what phase we're in. I don't know if the lockdown is a thing anymore. I have no idea what's going on. All I know is my life hasn't really changed much since March. But I do know you like to keep busy in terms of what you've been watching and reading, whatever. So go on you first, John. What have you been watching, reading, listening to? What have you been doing to entertain yourself since we last spoke?
Well, over the last couple of weeks, since I knew that we were going to be watching the Rambo film, I went back and watched the first 3 of the Rambo films, which get progressively worse as they're going along. The first one is excellent, second and third, and I stopped about halfway through the 4th one, so I can't really tell you how that is yet, but I will watch it because I've been told it's pretty good. I've also been rewatching the MCU Phase 1, so I watched all of those films again, apart from The Incredible Hulk, because it's not on Disney Plus and the rest of them are. So that's been pretty good, enjoying that. Watched Happy New Year, Colin Busted, Ben Wheatley film. It's on iPlayer just now. It came out at New Year last year, I believe. It's an excellent wee family drama film set on a new year, which is really good, and it's basically a massively dysfunctional family and all the hangers-on. It was excellent. It was a really good film. Watched the Thomas Crown Affair, the old Steve McQueen film, which was excellent. Very good indeed. Not seen that for years and years. A couple of Akira Kurosawa films. Sat and watched with my boy. I watched Hidden Fortress and I watched Ran. Now, Ran is just amazing, partly because it's in colour and it's just a fantastic spectacle film. It's like Cast of Thousands and all that. Excellent stuff.
Am I right in thinking Hidden Fortress is the one that inspired George Lucas?
It was one of the ones,
yeah.
Yes, yeah. You've got the tall, lanky guy and the wee guy in it, so that's very much C-3PO and R2-D2, and it's the way that they interact and everything. And there's a princess that they're supposedly trying to save as well, who basically doesn't need saving. She's more of a warrior than either of those two are. Cracking movies. I think they're a BFI player, or through Amazon or something. Got those. All very good. So in telly, a couple of documentaries. The Rise of the Murdochs documentary, which has been on the last couple of weeks, which is fascinating. It's a very well put together documentary. You would really like it, Thomas, because it's pretty much set out in the same way that Succession is set out, right down to the title music and the images at the start with the old footage of them being on holiday and things like that. And it's all based around everything to do with News International. I think there's been 2 episodes so far, and the third one is going to be doing with America and Trump and all the goings on that are going on to this day, obviously. Also, Once Upon a Time in Iraq, which is about the Iraq War, again on the BBC. It's a 3 or 4 part documentary, and it's amazing. Basically, they're just talking to people who were involved in it, people who were on the ground in Iraq, living through it, and US soldiers and various people like that. It's fascinating to see the way that these people talk about the conflict and the doubt that they have in their minds looking back on it. It's very good. In terms of dramas, watched Patrick Melrose, which was very good. Benedict Cumberbatch, 5-part drama, which is based on books. Watched Normal People, the BBC drama about the 2 teens who sort of a first love thing and how they go through, I think it's about 4 years of their life, which was excellent. And nice wee 30-minute chunks as well, which is really, really good. And I've been rewatching Spiral, the French detective drama, which was on BBC a couple of years ago. Got, I think, 4 seasons of those on DVD, so I've just been working my way through those as well. Book-wise, only reading one, which is On Set with John Carpenter. It's a photo book from Kim Gottlieb Walker. She did the on-set photography for John Carpenter on the Halloween films and Christine, Escape from New York and The Fog. It's all her black and white photos from the set and behind the scenes, and Yeah, there's lots of sound bites, if you like. There's a lot of people who have written especially for the book as well, like Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter and various other people involved in all the productions. It's a fantastic book. It's really, really nice. And that's it. Apart from that, I've done nothing, obviously, because I haven't had any time to do anything else.
Yes, not like you've been out in the cinema or anything.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
can you tell? Yeah.
God, I'm really starting to struggle with this. I mean, I know there's bigger things at play, but not being at the cinema in this amount of time, and the fact that pubs are open and I can't go and see a film, I think that's the thing that really annoys me. I know everything's different, it's not the same, blah blah, first world problems, but they're open in England and we still can't get to go and see anything. It's a bit rubbish, but I'm sure we'll discuss that later.
What are they showing? There can't be anything out.
I don't actually know. I haven't looked. I assume it will just be retrospective stuff, maybe smaller things, but yeah, I don't think there's going to be any big wide international releases anytime soon. Mary, what have you been up to?
I mean, I honestly feel embarrassed sharing what I've been watching after John's like really cultured and well curated collection of movies, because I have been watching a load of pish. I have to be honest. Well, actually, to start off with, here's the better stuff I've been watching. I've been watching Mrs. America on BBC Two, starring Kate Blanchett, and it's about Phyllis Schlafly, the woman who basically opposed equal rights for women, despite the fact that she was kind of pursuing her own sort of legal career and wanted to be taken serious on a political stage.
We need to talk about the threat of the women's liberation movement. So let me be clear. I am not against women working outside the home. That's their choice. What I am against is a small elitist group putting down homemakers. They want to create a sex-neutral society, which will mean that women are going to find themselves with 2 full-time jobs.
That's a fantastic piece of TV. I can't stop watching it. The characters, or the real people rather, are so interesting and so complicated, and I'm just sort of fascinated with the whole idea of, women's lib, and I would like to think that I'd be on the side of the bra burners if I'd been alive back in the day, but it's a really, really good series. I also watched Bombshell, which is the Hedy Lamarr documentary. That was excellent. It was really sad as well. It was like, for all the sort of inventions and maths and physics and everything else that she was so good at, she became a bit of a recluse who had really terrible plastic surgeries, and she just ended up a bit of a mess because she was just so convinced that people only wanted her for how she looked, as opposed to all of the contributions that she'd made to, the war effort in particular. And the US Army totally stiffed her on the patent for the work that she'd done as well, and she could have made billions out of it, and she obviously never did. Last night I watched The Black Coat's Daughter, which is the Oz Perkins movie. I think it's called February in the UK, and I'm not joking, that was Black Phillip-esque. That scared the shit out of me. I'm still, I went to bed last night, it was 1 a.m, and despite the fact that I'm 30 years old, I had the lamp on before I went to sleep because I was like, it's too freaky, I'm so disturbed by it. Other than that, I've been rewatching Spaced and Peep Show, just sort of retro British comedy, which I love, and embarrassingly 90 Day Fiancé and Selling Sunset, which is just total trash. But it's just mindless garbage that you can, Selling Sunset is literally just all these women fighting and bitching with each other, but selling $40 million houses. And 90 Day Fiancé is obviously about the K1 visa process in America. So you've got a lot of overweight, middle-aged Americans of both sexes believing that, stunning 20-year-old Filipinos or Nigerians are in it for love and not the green card. Book-wise, I finished The Crow Girl by Eric Axel Sund. That was a hard read. I had to put that down a lot. There was a lot of really graphic child abuse descriptions that I was like, oh, this is making me feel quite sick. So that was an effort to get to the finish line, but I don't like sort of leaving books. I also read that Defending Jacob by William Landay, because it's on Apple TV, which I don't have, and I thought I'll just read the book and see what it's like. It's kind of John Grisham-esque, a sort of light legal thriller. And I'm on the penultimate Philip Kerr, Bernie Gunther book just now, which is called Greeks Bearing Gifts.
I'm never really one for reading multiple books at the same time.
It's just one after the other. It's not at the same time. I don't have the concentration for that.
Just what John was mentioning as well, that I'm only reading at one book at the moment, and it's like, nah, but I know people can do that. They can read multiple books, put them down, pick another one up and that, and I'm just like, no, I can't.
I could do that while I was at uni, reading textbooks and my own choice of books, but now I'm old and I get excited about hanging my washing out, so it's one book at a time for concentration.
John, was that right in saying you haven't seen Spaced?
I haven't seen Spaced. It's on the list, but I've never watched. I know I'm a big fan of Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright, but for some reason I've just never sat down and watched it.
There's no way you won't like it, and you could watch it over a weekend. You could just binge it. It's so easy to watch. It's great.
Yeah, but I have an extensive list of so many things that I want to watch at the moment.
Yeah, I know, but the thing
This
with
is like
this
12 episodes.
Yeah, you could watch rather than sitting and watching the Arrowverse, which is going to take you up until like February to finish. You could watch this and have it done so quick, so soon.
Okay, I will watch it and I will report back on the next podcast then.
I haven't really been up to as much by comparison. Film-wise, I did watch The Truman Show again at the weekend, which I haven't seen in years.
Coming to you now from the largest studio ever constructed, it's The Truman Show!
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
What if? No scripts, no cue cards.
Morning, Spencer. How's it going?
What if you were watched every moment of your life?
How many cameras you got there in that town?
5,000.
I believe Truman is the first child to have been legally adopted by a corporation.
That's correct.
Brilliant.
It's just still brilliant. It's still absolutely brilliant. It's even more relevant than it was then, and quite scarily prophetic in many ways as well. But still absolutely brilliant. I couldn't believe it was over 20 years old. 1998 it came out, and I was like, wow, that's like mind blowing. I also watched Grizzly Man. Have you seen that?
I'm intrigued by the title. No.
I have, yes. I've seen that, yes.
It's a documentary by Werner Herzog, so I can see Mary's eyes ping right away.
Yep.
And it's about Timothy Treadwell, the animal rights activist and bear enthusiast that basically went to the Alaskan kind of wilderness every year and lived amongst bears and documented it. It's a horrible story, and it's really sad and it's really tragic. It's also quite uplifting in some ways as well. Yeah, it's on Prime just now. I'd highly recommend it. It's incredible because most of the footage is from the guy himself. So it's this really raw amateur video that's then all kind of pieced together to try and give you this portrait of his life, and it's incredible. I'd really recommend it.
Is it as crazy as Tiger King?
No, it's nothing like that, but there's probably a parallel universe out there, not too different for ours, where there could easily be a Netflix series about this guy.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we don't have it. I also watched The Conjuring earlier on for the first time since it came out, and it's still pretty terrifying in a good way. You know, it's just quite nice to see the fact that they do use jump scares, but they're limited, and there's a payoff a lot of the time, and the practical effects, and just I love James Wan. He's a brilliant director. I'm a big fan of the Conjuring films and the whole universe, although most of the kind of spin-offs and that have been pretty terrible, to be honest, like The Nun and The Curse of La Llorona, whatever the fuck you call it, but the first two Conjuring films and the second Annabelle film are great. I would say the rest are average at best. Speaking of horror, I discovered a new show on Netflix called Slasher, and it's an anthology-style show, so every season is something different. I watched the first season, and it's pretty brutal. It's a Canadian TV show, and I was surprised how graphically violent it was. It starts off with this couple being murdered on Halloween, and the woman's pregnant, and it's just really grotesque imagery. I won't say too much about it because you watch it, because it is really good.
Right.
And it's really cheesy and it's really cliched. It's basically it's like a tick off the slasher tropes as you watch it, but that's the point of it, and that's why it's really fun to watch. Apart from the fact that it's incredibly violent, and that says a lot about me more than anything. I also watched that Fierce City, New York versus the Mafia on Netflix, which is excellent. It's a mini-series documentary about how the New York, the government, not the New York government, but the district attorney and things like that went and took down the mafia. And unlike most Netflix miniseries, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's only 3 episodes, and it actually leaves you wanting more. Because I was expecting another 8 to 10 episode thing where you can tell they're really padding stuff out like they always do, but no, this is cracking. And like I say, it leaves you wanting more. I'd definitely recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Sopranos and things like that. Watching this, you see how accurate a show like that is. It's incredible. Book-wise, I just finished Weave World the other day by Clive Barker, which was a dark fantasy, not a horror, but interestingly enough came out the same year as Hellraiser, and apparently was quite a lot of pushback from the fantasy community, who were like, stay in your lane, Barker, I'm not interested in your fantasy. You're a horror writer, but the book got really rave reviews and is still highly acclaimed to this day. They've tried to make it a few times, but it always kind of just falls. There is still talk of a miniseries getting done, and it would really work, but it'd be difficult to make because the imagery, and it's difficult to imagine even just reading it because the way he can, I don't know if you've read Clive Barker, Mary, I know you have, John, but his writing is just so vivid, he's vivid, but it fries your brain trying to visualise what he's writing. And I don't mean like fries your brain in a terrifying way of that, because it's quite dark, this book, but it's by no means a horror. But it is difficult to visualise what he's talking about at times, because it's just so out there.
I read anything. Like, the only book, I struggle with that, Crow Girl. The only book that I've ever found genuinely, there's two that I found that genuinely scared me. One was American Psycho. I had to take a break from reading that because that was really fucking graphic. And then one that I read recently that I think you would like, Simmy, called Starvaker, kind of haunted house type of thing, but it really just got under my skin. I quite like a horror to read, not to watch, because then the images stay in my head, but I read, it's fine.
If you get a chance, then I would recommend Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker, which is the book Hellraiser's based on. And interestingly enough, and I only found this out recently, when Clive Barker wrote the Hellbound Heart, he wrote it with the film in mind. So he deliberately wrote the novel or the novella knowing he wanted to make it as a film. I think that's why it's quite accessible compared to some of his other work. Not that Weave World, for example, isn't accessible, but it is quite in depth, and you get the Great and Secret Show, which is also a dark fantasy, and it can be quite like I need to put this down because it's kind of like a lot to take in. Whereas like Hellbound Heart, as much as it is very visual and very graphic and very horror, it's easy to digest. It's all easy to digest.
Imagine I loved it and I ended up becoming like #1 Hellraiser fan.
Hey, stranger things have happened. I still think you would like the first Hellraiser film.
Yeah, maybe. I'm determined to watch the Rambo movies now, actually, but yeah, it's baby steps.
We have a tweet from our fans regarding the choices.
Saying, please stop, please, for the last time, I'm begging you.
Never.
Yeah, well.
Basically, we're going to be like Leonardo DiCaprio, Wolf of Wall Street, just kind of standing, it's like, fucking going anywhere.
Well, at least we've had one tweet. That's nice. Makes me feel loved.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, it's like the less attention we're getting on social media, the more listens we're getting, so that's a good thing.
Well, I've got a Huawei. Well. I need to change my phone before they really decide that they don't like China and my phone will stop working.
You do realise you've already been cloned.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
There's
a version of me that makes sense out there somewhere.
You've been cloned and sold into slavery.
Yeah, there's a non-racist version of you out there, Mary.
And even that was a wee bit racist.
Oh, yeah, a little bit borderline. Couple of statements she's made. Everyone's like, oh, I'm going to laugh at that.
The clone kind of goes, I'm no racist, but...
I mean, when you posted earlier that you'd gone for an eye test, I searched about in Messenger looking for a GIF or something that had some sort of racist eye test connotations, and I couldn't find one.
Did you just Google racist eye test?
I'm sure they must be out there. That's the kind of day I've been having.
I had a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad one is dead.
Honestly, Sammy, my money would have been on you loving this because it was shit.
I don't say this. I don't use that. I don't say that sentence lightly. I mean, you had when we get into the conversation, I will tell you how much respect I was given this film walking into it, and I still left disappointed.
There's a lot to be said for Cake and Potatoes.
Oh, listen, I'm one of those sick freaks that prefers Russell Crowe with his dad bod, but I just think he basically said that was the most bored he'd ever been because he was just constantly working out and couldn't eat and I think was living off like black coffee and cigarettes, so I don't think he was too interested in going back to it.
Yeah, but what the hell is a dad bod, right? Because Zach Brafter, Zac Efron has been getting criticised. That is not dad bod.
He's just stopped waxing his chest.
I'm like, if that's a fucking dad bod, then yeah. Jason Momoa as well was on the beach, and people were like, Jason Momoa shows off his dad bod. And I'm
also not dad bod.
Just not shredded. He's hard. He's still absolutely ripped.
Yeah, no, the Zac Efron thing, he's literally, he's got hair. That's what it is. But dad bod to me is like Russell Crowe and the other guys. Yeah, yes. That's dad bod. Yeah. Not just like, oh, I've got a six-pack, but it's slightly hairy. How many fucking dads do you know are cutting about like that? John's like, me?
No, and I'm not going to prove it as well.
John's like, unlike Stallone, I'm taking my shirt off.
And I haven't waxed. Front or back.
One of these days we're going to get through this without dissolving into this.
No, we're never going to get through it.
I've just realised that I've just claimed to say that I've watched Payback, which I haven't. I've just got it confused with Maverick again. What the fuck is wrong with me?
What is your obsession with Maverick?
Yeah.
It's not even a good film. It's just that for some reason in my head I keep getting the titles mixed up. Sorry, John.
That's all
It's
right.
like you just imagine speaking to Mary. It's like, what do you think of the Braveheart? Is that the one with? Oh no, that's not Maverick, is it?
Yeah, where he wins the card game. Yeah, aye, that was really
Plays
good.
a card game, yeah. He's got the guns and stuff, and
yeah.
he shoots Robert the Bruce. I can't remember.
What's actually wrong with me? Apologies.
I thought maybe you were going to mention John Saxon dying a couple of days ago. Actor who was on the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I know he was famous for all sorts of things, but obviously that all the headlines seem to go with Nightmare on Elm Street star dies.
Yeah, it kind of depends where your kind of genre allegiances lie. A lot of people remember him from Enter the Dragon more than anything. But yeah, for me, it was always Nightmare on Elm Street, having played the character in 1, 3, and 7, where he plays himself. It's very interesting. Yeah. Or if you've not seen New Nightmare, it's very meta. Have you seen it?
No.
It's brilliant.
I've not seen any of them.
I've not even seen the first, never mind like the 19th or whatever this is.
I know you're laughing, right? But obviously it's like Nightmare on Elm Street. By the time you go to the 6th movie, it was basically a case of right, just die, and they did. They killed the film off because it was terrible, and the franchise was just hemorrhaging money, and the quality was dipping more and more so. But Wes Craven's New Nightmare is set in the real world, with the actors all playing themselves, including Robert Englund. And it's the idea that Freddy is some ancient evil who has been contained in the world of this movie, but now the movies are finished, he's trying to break into the real world. But that sounds really, really shite. It does. But it's not. It's so well done. It's a very, very good movie.
And yet you watched it, even though it wasn't rubbish, you watched it.
Actually, yeah.
I was going to say, I feel like the tables have turned this week. You're turning your nose up at Rampo last pod, and I'm like, fuck yeah, that was good fun.
But yeah, John Saxon, it was good to see him play himself in that. As he plays Nancy's father in other movies. He's also the chief of police. And in New Nightmare, he returns to the role in a way as the father figure, the actress, which is quite interesting. But yeah, it's quite a good movie. Yeah, but he died recently, which is quite sad as well.
And we're done.